break is over and we are ready to continue. I was listening carefully the former session. I'm very happy with the discussion we have had, and Mr. Panzer spoke about Nordic walking and the role of lead users in that sector. I was, together with my wife, a lead user of Nordic sticks in the United States. It must have been in November 2000 in Boston region. We took these sticks and we started to walk, and our neighbor was calling us or shouting to us from the other side of the street, "Have you forgotten something?" That is something what happens with lead users quite often. So, as I said in the beginning, innovation is always a risk. And I will inform in this phase as well the Finnish participants that Sitra is going to continue this theme, the role of Asia and Asian countries in global innovation. Late August, actually 29th of August, we will organize so-called Sitra Day, and we will invite you to participate in that, and we will have high-level representatives from all these three countries, permanent secretary, so actually deputy minister for trade and industry in India, Mr. Ramasamy, then Mr. Kurokawa from Japan. He is now special advisor for the government in science and technology. He's former president of the Academy of Sciences in Japan, and then we have high-level representative of China coming to our seminar as well. And it is going to be 29th of August, so write it down already now. And now we are going to move on, and the next session is devoted for education enabling future innovations. That is the title of our next session. And the chairman of this session is going to be Leena-Maija Otala. She gave me strict orders how to introduce her. I cannot go into the details. I would like to say only that she has been working in many important positions, both in business sector and in academic sector, and that is something which is extremely important when looking at innovations. People have to move or have they need an opportunity to go over the borders between academic sector, business sector, and as well governmental institutions. And she is a good example how successful that kind of can be. So, Leena Otala, please.
Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I very much believe myself on these social networks and collecting information about users or people who are more talented than I am. So what I actually did was that I called several colleagues and said, through internet of course, by email, and said, give me the buzzwords, what are the most crucial topics for innovativeness. So I got a list which actually talks very much about interaction, dialogue, connection between people. You may notice that there are these Pekka Himanen's enriching interaction or enriching communities. As he said, that both words are okay. There is jamming, which in Finnish is jammailla, which Kirsti Lonka and Kai Hakkarainen have introduced in the University of Helsinki. There are a lot of discussion about teams and communities, and as Pekka Panzer was saying, it's a question of integrating. So cross-disciplinary teams and cross-disciplinary innovations are very important. In the previous session there was also discussion about pipeline, which means that we have unfinished ideas. Actually, in this new social software world, you can just throw the idea into the internet and say, into this community and say, hi guys, who have studied something about this? What do you know about this? And you start collecting new ideas, as actually I did too. And something comes up at the end of the pipeline. So this sounds very nice. That's what all the scholars are actually saying and studying. However, then I also called my colleagues in business side, in companies, asking what are the topics that you are investing now? Productivity, cost efficiency, and processes, tools, standards. Like one of the top executives said that you don't even know what happens when you push the button. So nothing related to the previous list. And speed is the forcing drive. So that doesn't allow too much time for being creative. When we look at the universities and academic institutions, we talk about faculties, disciplines, so boxes and boxes. And what we actually measure are credits, degrees, diplomas, patents, particularly published articles. That's the most important measurement. Something that has been finished, so a process that has already the end. So there's actually some kind of collision between these two lists. There was a foresight project about a year ago that the Academy of Finland and Tekes were actually launching, that was called FinSight 2015, and I had a chance to chair the panel of education and learning. Two of these most important challenges actually came up. One is that education still focuses very much on individuals. And we all know that this kind of Leonardo da Vinci type of time, one head intelligence, that's over. We can talk about collective learning, collective creativity. And as we just heard in the morning, we talk about user innovations. Another big trend or challenge for the education is the trend that more and more learning is taking place outside the formal education. So we can talk about the ubiquity of learning. You can learn anywhere, anytime. And particularly social software and social networks and open source that was already mentioned, it's something you cannot control. As we used to think that a classroom and teacher-oriented education is based on controlling that you really learn, you take the test. So it means that self-motivation, self-management, those are important. And we should really know what inspires us for jamming, if I use Kirsti Lonka's word. The title for this session is Education and Innovation, actually. So we know that to be innovative we need a lot of knowledge, and education is a crucial structure to create knowledge. However, education and learning are not the same thing. So how should we actually change our education system in order to make it more supportive for the innovativeness? I think that's the big question today. There are several challenges. That structure is the University of Turku on the left side, typical organizational chart. And Sirkka Heinonen was mentioning this collaborative creativity that needs combining physical and digital spaces, and the importance of broad user innovation participation. And Charles was mentioning this bird's nest type of organization. So anyway, we need to find new kinds of structures that support innovativeness and these learning communities. Another challenge is this efficiency and effectiveness. We are still measuring everything by time, by speed, and we all know that that doesn't support creativity. Where do we find time for people to create blue ideas, as the painting is called? It's Kimo Kaivanto. And how do we actually start to think about effectiveness? Thinking how we measure education. The last question that the organizers have actually posed was this skills. What kind of skills do we need? In the previous session there was a discussion about the skills that everybody needs to be an innovative user or to be able to innovate as a user. Rapid learning was actually mentioned at least several times. Does the school provide us today with the skills for rapid learning, or does it still provide us for skills for good memory for the next test? This is a new initiative that tries to develop something new and take the new approach. It's called Kikero or Cicero learning, and it has been started by the University of Helsinki. And the aim is to provide top-level research on education and learning. And we have integrated educationalists, brain researchers, organizational experts and technology experts. And I think that Kristiina Kumpulainen, who is the director of Kikero, should be somewhere here, so she's happy to tell more that this is coming. So those are the challenges that our speakers hopefully will provide us answers to. About 20 years ago, I was in Bologna when the university was celebrating its 1200th anniversary. And that was also the date when the European Business Higher Industry Forum was established. There were two groups, CRE, which represented all the university rectors in Europe, and ERT, which is a group of CEOs of large European companies. And the idea was, or the aim was actually to provide better links with industry and academia in order to accelerate innovativeness. However, I found out that that doesn't exist anymore. But the one does exist in the States, which was our benchmark. And the second exists in Japan. And I'm very happy to introduce you to our first speaker, Susaburo Takeda, who is professor at the Waseda University, and also executive director of the Japanese Business University Forum, which has been successfully alive for longer than we did in Europe. Professor Takeda is a very exceptional person. He has a multi-scientific background. So he's not only a technical person, but he's also a social scientist. And he's member of a Cosmos Club, which has members representing Nobel Prize winners and Pulitzer Prize winners. So we are very honored, Professor Takeda, to have you here. So he will tell you what will happen or has happened in Japan when they have regenerated the educational culture. The second speaker is Seppo Höltä, professor from University of Tampere, who is perhaps the best expert in this country in university management and administration. And not only in this country, he has a very extensive international career in research and consulting in this educational business and higher education management particularly. And Professor Höltä will tell us more about the changing roles and models of higher education in this global society. Like in the previous session, we will have two commentators. First one given by Timo Kekkonen I think he could be called Mr. Technology Policy in Finland. He has had so many positions in technology policy that I couldn't find in the internet anybody meeting that standard. And the second fund, His Excellency Mr. Ambassador Jorma Julin from Japan. And afterwards we will have discussions and hope that we will find answers to the questions that the organizers have given us at the beginning. And now, Professor Takeda, the floor is yours.
Sorry, those are sweets for me. And actually, I thank you on behalf of Japan delegation. I thank you being here and collaborate with your such workshop. And actually, also special thanks to Dr. Cronin, Mr. Aho, and Pierre, and others people. And today's topic should be, I should keep in time. So I will start my watch. Well, actually my topic is education, how enabling of innovations. And of course, I raise a question: what's the definition of innovations? There are many people are calling innovations and evolutions, and sometimes evolutions. And we are looking at the same affairs. Some like a shallow scientists, like Marx called revolutions. He has just a stick on the surface or material parts. And Schumpeter's and other Peter Druckers, they are more deep thinker and to allow the more spiritual evolutions to look at and then they found a different rule for revolutions. What Karl Marx and other people is exclude is like a principle. But innovations, what Schumpeter and Peter Drucker found is add up, collaborations. Now you are using many words, networking, system, process, and so on and so forth. They come from those like change of mindset, more deep. And so that's today's my discussions or talk is how like Japan face those things. Yes, we have a very good, excellent governments spending a huge money, doing nothing, time to time. But Professor Otale introduced me. I'm executive director of Business University Forum of Japan. And Professor Otale, according to her, she organized like a European version. But ours, there's like a US version of those forums. And the Japanese versions and the Australians and other. They are working because like our mindset has changed. That like wisdom is not come from ivory tower. But the wisdom will born on a networking. So that's working with the business side and the university is one that could get a new idea. That's related to innovations. So I will not stick so many things. But and also the one more thing that before I forget, I'm not speaking too much and too long. So what today is I prepare a background paper for you. So that I can finish up any time. And also, I will use many illustrations and cartoons and some picture. Because innovations is very difficult to using words. To innovate is entirely new, having a new concept. So that's a metaphor, according to Socrates. Metaphor is the most good things. So let's start. And this is Kyoto Temple. And Japan, US, and Finland, Sweden have a very similar on research and development. How the like Finland keeping a top, and Sweden, and how the Japan and US following up. However, I will speak about the Japanese Cape. This is not like a rock church, but the stone garden at Kyoto, using just only a stone and sand. And Japan is used to known as a very innovative nations. However, those like 2 decades, we are struggling about our innovative capability. Japan, such a tiny island, now enjoying on the second largest economy, only because we are so innovative, or we used to be so innovative. But many in the world right now is talking Japanese is a temporary number 2. And sooner or later, that's a BRICS, or China, or India, and later part of this century, Brazil, or even Russia might surpass Japan. And we are, as not only like a Japanese governments, our people, concerned business leaders are talking what we should do for those things. We are not lazy. For those 2 decades, we have prepared many things. Those are just a list of what we have done. And like basic science law, and now the business university relation is one of the national topics. And under the new administrations, Prime Minister Abe, he initiated 2 things. That is like a 2025 innovation project. That's Mr. Aho told that Kurokawa is somehow related. And also Japan, under the Prime Minister Abe, Regenerate Education Committee, we started. And we had some change. This is like what we have done for those 10 years. Our forum started 1992. That time there's nothing happened in our governments. And if you look at our member list, like Chairman Toyota of Toyota is our chairman, Chairman Fujitsu's, and the Chairman of Mitsubishi Corp, and so on and so forth. They have a huge power, not like pressing, but they could whisper to whoever's our Prime Minister. And then the result is those things. And perhaps some of you think that we have done very nicely, but the reality is quite different. This is also nice parts, how our national university number of patents are increasing on those 10 years term. And also in theory, Japanese like industry are giving money to the university sides, but not in domestic university, but to the overseas university they are giving. And even those 10 years or 2 decades efforts, our high-tech products percentage share is dropping. Later, I will leave those PowerPoints so that you could enjoy later if you wish. And also, our manufacturing efficiency is dropping. And there's nothing that our government can stop those tendencies. We are missing some points. Then back to my original talk. There should be 2 different of education systems back to 2,500 years ago. First part is what like a sophist education type. What they have done is give whatever younger generations on what Socrates, sophist has the knowledge. They claim they have vast knowledge and skill. And the other type is a natural enemy of Socrates. And that is like a that's Socrates started on moral educations. Those like 2,500 years ago, and during those time, we are swinging, those pendulum is swinging on and off. And on the 19th century, every people believe knowledge education is real education. And actually, after von Humboldt built Berlin University, every country tried to resemble knowledge education that has a graduate university and research facility and so on and so forth. And almost all parts of 20th century, that's knowledge education. Every people think knowledge education is one. But some later very end of 20th century, many are repeating on moral education, on life science. Quite different on how to educate. Knowledge education is to memorize. But for moral educations, later part in Roman, they called liberal arts or liberal education on moral education side. That is foster a new type of mind with using dialogue, not like a knowledge type of education. As you could see through the book of Plato, how Socrates tried to stop young people and using dialogue and let young people have a different way of mindset there is. The reason why I'm raising those things is this is like a history of Japan, how we face our innovations capability. On 1853, Commodore Perry visited us. That's a U.S. Commodore, and tried to open Japan. And since that time, economist Larry Klein estimate 4% of innovations annually. And since that time, like 80 years, that's keep on. And it stopped by World War II. But then, again, nearly 10% of innovative rates. What happened? And we are losing 1980, going to zero growth, lose our innovative capability. And Japanese government is spending huge money, as I told you before. But there's no tendency that's this innovative wave to grow again. Oh. This is a case of 1853. That's Commodore Perry built at Yokohama. That's Fisher's village that time. And what I'm trying to talk is many people think that Japan has automatically have the ability to be innovative, but it's not true. Japan has some educational system, very unique educational system that can be compared or comparable with moral education system at Greece time. And this gentleman, Ishida, Mr. Ishida, he was born as a farmer and worked until the merchant until 40 years. Then he tried to speak, teach how to think more nicely, how to think more rationally. So that's he explained even commerce need rationality. It's like a century before what Adam Smith talk on the morality of economy. And we have, of course, at the Shogun time, we have, our government, Shogun, had their school. And local king also facilitate their school. But believe it or not, there's more than 1,000 private school at the time of Shogun. And those are supported by the people, not like a shogun or not a king. Or not. So what we are finding is how important of a social capital or commitment of a people to educate not only like your children, but the whole society itself. And the result is, this is like only 2 years after Commodore Perry, some inventor who started Toshiba, also they made those miniature steamboat. And also, this is like on 1840. That's even in Shogun time, they had such a ability. Once you share some ability to understand what's different culture or different paradigms are. And there's, some spiritual people, how deep science are important. those Julian Huxley is grandson of Thomas Huxley. He's the first secretary of UNESCO. And Gregory Bateson is other persons. And this is also the mentor of Japanese at 1950. You remember how the Japan picked up more innovative. That time, Ed Deming, at the age of 50, visited us and taught how way of system thinking, how the related to everything is everything. And also, perhaps some of you know that Ed Deming was refound in United States at that time. That every people are talking, U.S. is on risk on their economy, industry, and so on and so forth. And it's like how we change. Our mindset has changed. And we are imitation to innovations. So we are missing how important. We just touch on technology and so on and so forth. And missing a more cognitive side. But much necessary is stick on cognitive side. This is like how we change. Philosopher Putnam on the 20th century. He talked those things. I will finish up a couple of minutes. And we look at the same nature. And different mindset people have a different view. On the left side is Niels Bohr. And Descartes said everything is spirit and material. And at like a Confucius time, we see the nature as a very complex with a random chaos. And this is what's like a basic of our cognitive. Shallow science says atom is origin. But now we know, thanks to Niels Bohr, we know everything is related. And those are like a change of cognitive, how we shallow to deep. We are facing those things. And this is the one that Ed Deming taught Japan, or Japanese business leader on 1950, how the factory is working. Then later, Dr. Toyota pick up those things, apply their management. Chairmen of Canons do the same thing. And I'm quite sure that the Nokia people is the same idea. This is the other side of Deming, what Deming told us. Continuous learning is more important. And every new theory come those ideas. And we are looking only like very superficial, above the sea. But more important, human being is more important is how cognitive theory, what's a new rule, those bring a wave of innovations. And I will skip, but there's a general consensus of new type of education. One is a moral education. It's not like Greece time. Still moral education is very important. Plus soft skill. Soft skill is how to deal with the people. Hard skill is we move in a more knowledge age. Have to learn cutting edge knowledge. And those some of curriculum that we are talking. And well, I will skip, but this is my conclusion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Mrs. Chairperson, I'm sorry. Okay, it's I listened to Professor Takeda's presentation with a great interest, and it also revealed a lot of similarities between Japan and Finland, in particular in the higher education and research policy field. We are both reforming and have reformed our science and technology systems and integrating the higher education research policy to much more closely than before to industrial and economic policies. And in both countries we see it very clearly, the importance of integrating market coordination into the higher education and research systems. And for instance, in Japan you have been establishing the university corporations, and we are taking steps towards more extensive financial autonomy of the universities. But it looks like that in both countries we see that we also need strict higher education policy and the involvement of government in developing the education and research systems. And also it was fascinating to listen to your historical overview. But my purpose is to go more directly to the present day challenges, and my perspective is much more from the perspective of universities, the more bottom-up approach, and I will discuss the topic of today mainly from the perspective of the educational units and educational programs. Actually, the contents of my presentation is in this slide. First, I start with talking something about the changing social contexts for higher education, and continue to talk about the different layers we can identify in the process of knowledge production and innovation. And after that I will go to discuss the learning and skill challenges in global knowledge-based society, and finally I come to the factory floor level of the university and talk about the implications and challenges for program and curriculum development at the universities. And if we try to identify what are the main features of the social context for higher education, and where are the driving force for the change in higher education, I would like to identify two issues. The first one is the globalization of society, and the growing importance of global economy as a driver for social change. And also related to these developments, we can see very clearly that the role of knowledge is changing. it is more and more concretely both the factor of production as well as the output of production. And the related trend is that knowledge is becoming more and more a commodity traded in the marketplace. And the second issue is the change of the mode of knowledge production in modern society. We have taken quite concrete steps from traditional discipline-based knowledge production towards more applied and cross-disciplinary knowledge production mode. We are transferring from what I would call supply-driven model to the demand-driven model. It is the meaning that the role of academe is changing. We are not creating new knowledge anymore on the conditions we set by ourselves. It is the society and markets which are driven the knowledge production process, and meaning also that knowledge production takes increasingly place in the interaction between universities, research institutes and industries, and meaning that we have already lost the monopoly at the universities in knowledge production, and that is something we have to be quite worried about, how to find our new role in this new kind of setting. And what also I think characterized very much the ongoing trend is the importance of the intensive interaction between research and education. When we are talking about the knowledge production and the innovation processes in the from the university point of view, the first in the core of academic knowledge production is something I would like to call the academic core, poor academic research, which mainly takes place within the disciplinary organizations. Of course, what has happened within the last 20 years or so, it is the importance of the university networks, global networks between disciplinary departments of the academic organizations. And I think this academic core is something making university unique as an social institution. It is the special responsibility of universities to take care of this academic core, because it is the area of very much self-regulated by the academic community. But I think in this academic core we can also find the maybe the main reason why the university as a social institution has been existed for hundreds of years. But today I would say that the special challenge for the university, as we discussed in the previous slide, is the enter to the field of applied knowledge production through the cross-disciplinary applied research, where the universities are cooperating with the other institutions. But I think if we are thinking about, for instance, in the universities in some developing countries, they have they have learned about market orientation of universities and concentrated their resources mainly to this applied area. But I think it cannot live in the longer run without close interaction with the academic core and the poor academic research. But the next layer, what I call a national and regional innovation system, of course it is also these other layers are belonging to the innovation system, but I would maybe better to call it the core of the regional innovation system, where we can find the structures, policies and funding programs, where the governments and the business companies are interacting. And finally I go to the global markets. But this picture is not ready without mentioning the very different kinds of interfaces and meditating organization between these different layers and actors in the processes of knowledge production and dissemination. And I have put these layers to this picture and emphasizing the importance of interaction in terms of knowledge production, but also in terms of funding the system. But I exclude the issue of funding in this presentation. But after this introduction, I go to discuss the learning and skills challenges in global knowledge-based society. In this slide, I have put at the top the academic work within the academic core, and at the bottom I have global markets. And if we think about what our graduates need to be successful and to operate in the system, the further up we are discussing, the more important is the theoretical knowledge based on the disciplines and also the discipline-specific research methods. But I think even the theoretical researchers working at the universities, they need more and more deeper understanding of the links between theories and practice, and the understanding of the structures and dynamics of the innovation system. We need understanding of the interaction between the technology system and social system. The project management skills are becoming more and more important, whether a graduate is working within the university and the academic organization, or whether he or she is working in the research institutes or market enterprises. And in the setting I draw in the beginning of my presentation about the global economy and global society, what is becoming more and more important is the ability to work in international multidisciplinary networks with industrial partners. It meaning that we have a great challenge of integrating young people to work in different working cultures, in academic culture and business cultures, but also the understanding of the national cultures. And finally, I go to the importance of the entrepreneurial and business skills and values. But the next thing I would like to discuss is what are the implications of this all to the program and curriculum development at universities. I started my presentation by putting the Japanese developments into the comparative perspective with the Finnish one. And in Finland we have had recently a lot of discussion, and the proposals of the national working groups and the universities about creating new institutional structures in this country by creating stronger research universities. And these reforms are extremely essential to Finland and to the competitiveness of the Finnish higher education system. And but what we also need, it is not enough to just change the system level and the institutional structures. I can, as an academic person, I can say that too much the academic individuals and the departments are still living in the world which does not exist anymore. In closed communities of scholars with too little interaction with society. And we really need a new kind of context for curriculum and program development. Based on what I discussed on the learning challenges, learning and skills challenges, I have derived a few topics what are important in the development of the educational programs in the future. I think the first thing is the balance between knowledge creation and socialization in education. We need strong disciplinary and multidisciplinary roots in curriculum, but at the same time we have to develop the correspondence between the learning environment the universities can provide for the students and the environment of work in the marketplace. I'm quite skeptical how the closed academic departments could create skills for students to work in the open marketplace. The second thing is the global view. When I'm talking about global view, I'm talking about educational contents. I'm talking about the importance of creating joint degree programs with foreign universities. I mean also the mobility of students and teachers. And related to that is the importance of creating international institutional and departmental networks and consortia. And within these international structures we need to integrate research, PhD programs and master's programs. And I think that the time for having some ad hoc networks is over. We need permanent, what I call primary networks for continuous cooperation with our partner institutions, partner departments, partner programs. But of course we also need what I can call secondary network, which creates more flexibility and capacity for change. And in all these network-like activities, we need human capacity building view in developing our programs. And it is quite clear that we need to transfer from learning from teaching strategies to learning strategies. What is becoming more and more important, also characterizing the curriculum, we need trained people who are capable to search for solutions for complex social problems. At the program level, in the program level, we need to develop models where we teach students and where the students learn to apply theories to practice. And the integration of students to research projects of the staff throughout the educational process from the very beginning of their studies. And this also means the encouragement of individual self-development. And in the program development, we also need to integrate our programs and our education to knowledge production at the different levels of the process and the different layers of the innovation system. Meaning in practice it means the international exchange and mobility of students, teaching cooperation with industries, internship in companies, and participation in joint projects with companies. And it is quite evident that we have to move from the educational model of present time, when we provide most of the education and in the younghood, to more and more the lifelong learning view, and to the supply-driven educational strategy to demand-driven learning strategy, where the occupational needs, labor market needs, and individual development are more central. We need to accumulate knowledge throughout the career of individuals. And what is very much missing nowadays from the university, and what we need to do more and more, is to integrate and to invite the stakeholders and employers in the development of our educational programs and curriculum. Thank you.
Takeda and Höltä. And I think that what came up very clearly was that first we still need the government to provide the higher educational policy nationally, but I think that somehow it should also be internationally. We need networking. We need networking between academia, which Professor Höltä was demonstrating a lot, that different faculties in different countries should have more collaboration. But more or less we need networking between universities and the rest of the society. And I couldn't avoid thinking of the morning session when the focus was on customers and users. How do we integrate the users to create and develop the products? I think the universities have now the same problem. We will have now the two comments. Please, Timo Kekkonen and then Mr. Ambassador, after you.
Chair, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers on the fact that they have introduced the subject of education to this seminar. Very often when we attend seminars on innovation and so on, issues related to research policy, technology policy, innovation policy are discussed to a length, but the role of education policies is often not mentioned at all, and that's why I'm very pleased that today the actual element of knowledge-based growth, the actual key element of innovation-based growth was put on the agenda, and hopefully this will indicate, and the discussion to follow, the importance of education as a crucial element in innovation, implementing innovation policies, and making full use of innovation in the society. This morning, a number of different paradigm shifts have been mentioned: open innovation, a move to user-friendly innovation, the paradigm shift from a linear to a nonlinear innovation process. And all of these have been very often discussed in relationship with technology policy, innovation policy. What are the implications of these different paradigm shifts on these policies? The question on how these paradigm shifts are reflected in educational policy, and not only meaning university education, but the whole educational policy area, are not touched upon that often. And this, again, is one of the benefits of this session, even though very short, to address this important subject. But the fact, or to realize the fact that this paradigm shift should also be reflected to a much greater extent also in educational policy. Before commenting a few very brief comments on the presentations we heard in this session, I would like to point out one common factor in the presentations. We heard interesting analysis, different trends were outlined, challenges were identified, and some questions were asked, and also quite a few of different issues on what should be done were pointed out. However, very often the question on what should be done is not gone into or addressed very deeply. A few different ideas are given on what should be done, but the basic question I think we should all ask ourselves is that in this area, which is true for many other policy areas also, a number of good ideas are brought on the table. We are able to analyze the system, and many of the experts know what should be done, but what can we do in order to see more of these changes actually in our educational system? Some of the ideas brought up in the two presentations have been around for a long time. They're still very important, but why do we not see enough of these changes in our educational system? Be it the content, be it the structures, be it the processes. Okay, then very few comments on the presentations themselves. There was a lot of content in the presentations, so I'll only pick out a few from each of the two we heard. The case of Japan has always been interesting for Finland for several reasons from the policy point of view. One of the reasons is related not on the fact on how Japan was able, after the Second World War, to develop its economy into the second largest economy in the world, but from our point of view, what happened and how was it possible for Japan in the late 80s to lose its innovative capability. This is something we in Finland also, on the policy side, looking at Finnish policies, have to look at and see whether there are reasons to be found. The second reason why Japan is very interesting is, I would say, even more important. We are similar countries in several ways. We are both leading countries in innovation-based economic growth, and it is therefore very interesting to see how Japan is addressing the global challenges it is facing in the fields of, once again, science, technology, innovation, education, policies. So we have a lot to learn from each other, even though, of course, looking at the size of the economies and so on, we are very different. But I think at the same time, as we were very well shown in Professor Takeda's presentation, there are many national features. We have a cultural heritage, we have different mindsets, and these also have to be taken into account when developing our policies. Moving on to Professor Hülte's presentation, I think he very well pointed out that globalization and the change of knowledge production are the major changes also within the whole educational system. A thought came to mind when he mentioned that universities have lost their monopoly in knowledge production. I think this is very true if you look at the knowledge production process, the innovation process in the more traditional linear, or as a more traditional linear process. But if you look at the innovation process in a nonlinear way, where the differences between basic research, curiosity-driven research, applied basic research, and so on, all become more and more difficult to distinguish between each other. And from this point of view, I think that the universities should not feel as if they're losing their role in knowledge production, but they have to find a new place in the overall system. So the question which came to my mind is that when we're trying to imply the differences related to the number of paradigm shifts, when we're thinking about on how the different paradigm shifts are related to, for example, the universities or educational policy, are we innovative enough when looking at the actual structure, the processes, and the content within the university and the whole educational system? So I think we have to have a much more open and innovative approach also within the university system. Finally, a few words about what should we do in Finland and what have we done in Finland related to the educational policy area. First of all, I think that we have to ensure also in the future that we have world-class knowledge in a limited number of fields, and this is related also to educational and research policy. So we need world-class knowledge. Then we have to make special effort to develop our educational system, taking special or putting special emphasis on issues such as developing the new skills required in the future. We have to take further measures in promoting networking, cooperative ways of working. We have to pay attention to continuous learning, and we have to look at the structures with a view on adaptability and flexibility of the system. And finally, an issue related very strongly to both educational policy and research policy is that we have to develop our foresight activities to ensure the best possible match between the acquired skills and the skills needed by our industry and the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kekkonen, and then Mr. Ambassador.
Mrs. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that when I have the privilege to be the last speaker for this session, of course it's a privilege, but also some points have been taken. I think Professor Takeda, he made a very good presentation, and I particularly liked his when he was speaking about seeking the spirit of innovation. He went very much in depth of the whole issue. Professor Hülte conceptualized very well the whole issue, and I think so much was said. I will give my views, my comments very much from a public policy practitioner point of view. I'm saying a few more things, what's going on in the higher education in Japan. I've been 1.5 years in Japan, so that's not a very long time, but I've been a keen observer. Let me first say that I very much agree with Timo Kekkonen when he said that Japan is a very interesting reference point for Finland. It's in many ways in a similar situation, particularly human resources development is so important because Japan doesn't have any other major significant natural resource. It's only very well educated people, skilled labor. That's also the same in Finland. But secondly also especially manufacturing jobs, they are emigrating from Japan. They are going to China. It's because of offshoring, outsourcing. So Japan is very much in a similar situation that we have to increase productivity. We have to add value added, not only in products but also in services. Japan is heading towards more dominant service industry as Finland is also doing. It's interesting that as Japan has been very strong investor in R&D, however, the return on investment in R&D seems to be quite weak, and so the innovation performance doesn't match the high level of input according to, for instance, OECD assessments. It seems that higher education policies have been pursued very much separately from science and technology policies and some other policies like regulatory policies. Actually, I think nobody has very much mentioned this morning regulatory policies. In the work of the EU, which former Prime Minister Aho has been active, there they have very much emphasized the labor market issues, the product market issues, and that also has a very clear linkage to the higher education policies, and it seems that in Japan higher education policy has been very much separate from other policies. Maybe the main observation I would like to make, and actually it was already mentioned by Professor Takeda, but I would like to repeat it, that it seems that the private sector in Japan has been slow to recognize the importance of shifting from a catching up process to a system which is based on fundamental product innovation, which is happening nowadays very much through new knowledge networks and creativity. But the education reform is underway in Japan. Professor Takeda already mentioned that, and there are many measures which have been taken, and particularly it seems that the linkages between education and innovation, they are now gaining much more attention. For instance, internationalization of the higher education system is promoted in many ways. It's increasing networking, it's increasing mobility of researchers. They are thinking of introducing minimum quotas for foreign students and so on. Autonomy of universities has been strengthened. Actually, the national universities have de facto been so-called privatized, and there are external board members. There is full discretion in use of state financing and so on. Gradually the government subsidies will be decreasing. What has been missing is very much in Japan strong cooperation between universities and the business community. One might wonder whether this is true, because I think many people in Finland, and I've been one of them before I went to Japan, we've been thinking that the government, business community, and all the players in Japan, they have had a kind of consensus policy. They've been playing together, but in practice it was quite a surprise for me to notice that the cooperation with business community, between business community and Japanese universities has been quite weak, not very widely spread. Of course, there are exceptions, and they are the top higher education institutions, some 20, 30, maximum maybe 40 universities, and their centers of excellence. Of course, there are other good exceptions, like the National Research Institutes, RIKEN, IISS, which belong to the international top. They have the necessary resources. Their working methods are flexible. They can make quick decisions. They seek the best partners abroad, etc. It's very important to recognize that in Japan, 3/4 of all the R&D is done in private enterprises. That's very often of high quality. But the government money going to R&D, the efficiency of that is not very high. Evaluation is really needs a lot of improving. Competitive financing is only slowly increasing. So we cannot say, and I think Professor Takeda made the point that Japan has a smart innovation system. Actually, it is due to the great volume of R&D investments and well-functioning, big part of the well-functioning private sector. It's because of them that Japan has been able to produce so many excellent results in technology development and innovations. So it seems that we have, now I'm coming to Finland and the lessons maybe which as a foreign observer in Asia I have drawn. So it seems that the Finnish innovation system, despite its weaknesses, despite the need for further improvement, is quite advanced and efficient compared to Japan. I very much hold the same view that Mr. Kekkonen made, that actually in all OECD countries, including Finland, we have analyzed what are the best practices. We know what are the best practices. The question is whether we can deliver. And Japan had also analyzed this already many years ago. But as Professor Takeda said, it's not that Japan has delivered very well in improving its innovation system, higher education system. So my point is, my conclusion is that I think those ideas, those suggestions which have come up recently in many government-commissioned studies, they seem to be very pertinent. So we need a new top university by strengthening cooperation between the Helsinki University of Technology, Helsinki School of Economics and Helsinki University of Industrial Design. We need more strengthening cooperation. We need to go even further. We need more international mobility. We need more networking in research cooperation and so on. I think one point we have to remember in Finland is that EU cooperation is not sufficient. Often best performers in many issues, they are outside Europe. They might be in United States, some in other fields in Japan. So we have to, in parallel, cherish that cooperation, those ties. And finally, let me leave Japan and make a comment on China. I think some of you might have read few days ago, recent article in International Herald Tribune by the famous Thomas L. Friedman. He asked whether US should be concerned about China, where so many young people are studying math and science, and so many of the young people in United States, they are dropping out. But he was asking, will China hit the ceiling on innovation because of its political authoritarianism? He was seeking an answer to this from Einstein, who had said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Thus, Friedman concludes that a society that restricts imagination is unlikely to produce many Einsteins, no matter how many educated people they have. But he continues, Friedman, a society that doesn't stimulate imagination when it comes to science and math won't either, no matter how much freedom it has. So, consequently, Friedman, he concluded that both the US and China have homework to do. I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we live with this clock now because it gives us 5 more minutes. And I already asked whether Professor Takeda would like to comment Mr. Ambassador's present or comment on comment. So please, if you can make it quite short, and then we take a couple of questions. I was allowed to take a little bit over time. So those of you who have the important one, please stand up and then ask for the microphone and say your name so that we can get it tape recorded. Thank you. And now Professor Takeda.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. That's you observed very nicely. And what's Japan face at this moment is we do not know what's real power. Of course, we used to, train and educated on Edo or Meiji era. And then we are missing how those educations related to innovative capability and money or so on and so forth. But some example is a good company like a Toyota's or like a Nissan's change the mindset of people in a relatively short time. It's not true that the best students are entering Toyota's. There is like a way to change people, that's the case of a Canon or the others company, and we should learn. And that's the reason what I said. Like for 2,500 years, we are discussing, starting by Socrates, and finish up innovated by some Plato, Aristotle, and whenever those ideas visit some country, Rome, Western society, and even like Japan, moving or more innovative. And I skip many talk about Julian Huxley. But he's the one that to try to identify what's the real of innovative power of human being. How the education can work, and so those are like a huge task. It's not like 10 years task, but I think it's like 21st century. Every society, every institute have to spend those things. So on my last page of PowerPoints, some research council, kind of a global research council on education, are very badly needed. because we are human being is open education, open mind, or not closed mind.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn now. Who has the most important question or comment to the speakers? Over there, please. And
oh, hello. Where's the camera? There. I'm Roope Mokka from Demos Helsinki, and to Mr. Takeda, I would like to perhaps rephrase Risto Eiji Penttilä's question. That was the policy recommendation coming out of moral education model as opposed to the knowledge education model. We're in Finland, and most of our old universities here are built upon the Humboldt ideal of the moral education and things based on dialogue and collaboration and freedom of choice in terms of the disciplines one studies. And as Charles Leadbeater here earlier pointed out, this is very much where the new things are coming out of, where innovation happens. And right now we're in Finland building an innovation university, so I would be wondering therefore that what are the implications? How does one build a moral education system in a contemporary country, make it a university? Thanks.
thank you. I think you want to answer this.
Sure. Of course, it's you have to define what means of moral education. Meaning of Rousseau's or meaning of Confucius are quite different. What I'm talking is about Socrates' citizen or the some Ethwas type. It's not like to obey or not keep on a certain etiquette and so on and so forth, but a shared idea and free communications, even to discuss with your boss. Those mindset Socrates taught to at the time of Athens. And we should, in order to get such high ethics or moral, teachers or guru are very needed. So that's if you read Plato's, Socrates interviewed every elite that time, and they find Socrates finds that elite did not know anything. So what that means is have to change our elite. Those people's mindset, it could be on old paradigm. That's including your top business leaders could be, or your top politicians could be. And my definitions again for moral or ethic is to play a new rule so that one can get knowledge later. Is that clear? But I wish that you could read more philosophy, because at that time, philosophy and science are just the same.
All right, we have second very important question. Please, can we get the microphone here?
Thank you very much. I'm from the Foreign Ministry. And in anticipation of the lunch, I'll make a provocative question. And that is that, according to my understanding, talent follows the normal distribution, with maybe imbeciles at the one end and freaks at the other. And what you have been talking about mainly seems to relate to the freaks, those that actually are able to produce innovations. My question is, firstly, what is the fate that you reserve for that big mass in the middle, who we all, the rest of us, are? And secondly, what is the fate that you reserve for the smaller nations with smaller populations that by definition have relatively less freaks to supply?
Thank you for a very interesting question, but I think if we think we are thinking about the educational policy in Finland, I think one of the even maybe the most important advantages of the development of the whole educational system is that the equity has been the most important pillar on which we have been building our educational system. And for instance, as everybody knows, we have been rated very high at the top level in the international comparisons. And in this moment, I think what we have to be more worried is the higher education system. Nobody can say that in higher education we are at the global top. But of course, your question would raise a lot of additional thoughts about how to take care of the all citizens' educational needs, and how to integrate those people provided with less abilities to integrate in society. But in a comparative view, I think Finland has been doing very well.
Please.
Can I, some my observation from outside. I think Finland only 6 million or 5 million, giving very cultural impact to the outer side. Sibelius is a kind of case. That's he's one typical example of mind. Who set a new mindset. Or Madame Janssen, Moomies. Every Japanese children alike. So that's keep on those things. And also for the education, I think the dialogue system can work. It's if on some you choose a very good, talented teacher, raise up your quality of a teacher. Then it takes a slow, but within their time, I'm sure that your people's mindset, qualities of mindset is going up. And you have such example.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, education is always something that everybody has to talk about. And I think that one message to Sitra and Esko is that you should continue on this line and have more on these kind of dialogues, and maybe without making any kind of conclusions, but maybe Sitra could think that we would have Business Higher Education Forum Finland, Japan, and learn from each others. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to thank once again our excellent professors and presentators, as well as the commentators. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry to keep you from the lunch, but maybe we can go 5 more minutes for the lunch.